Hey, friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. And the question I have for you is who is the worst, best president? And what I mean by that, when I say best, and I have that in quotation marks, what I mean is the president that many of us are told was one of the best presidents in American history. And I'm not talking about Washington, I'm not talking about Lincoln. I am talking about a president that was possibly the worst, best president we ever had. So I want you to tell me in a comment below who you think is like, I know who the worst president is, the one who's pretending to be the president right now. And, when I mean the president that many people think was a great one, but was in fact a horrible one. And we can quibble over the effectiveness or the destructiveness of, let's say, Bush or Clinton. As a reader, or actually I'm looking at my Substack right now, and I want you to subscribe to my Substack, peggyhall.substack.com. But as a healthy American, and I hope you're a subscriber to this channel, please hit that subscription button again, because YouTube and I are playing this little game where you subscribe and they unsubscribe you. So please subscribe again. You probably know where I stand when it comes to the big zero. Yeah, that was the president. I think it was 2009 to 2017. And, of course, the current imposter that's sitting in the White House. There are Democrats even that loved Reagan. So I would not say he was the worst, best president. And Trump is probably one of the more divisive in terms of people either love him or they hate him. But none of these even come close to the president that I am talking about. I am going to crown him the winner of the losers. So this horrible president bamboozled Americans in so many ways, and it still continues to this day. He set the stage for the massive destruction that is barreling through right now. Nothing that we're going through right now would have been possible without all of the destructive, horrible policies and laws that he signed. So I want you to tell me in a comment below. While you do that, I'm going to read you a message from our sponsor. We're hopping on over to noblegoldinvestments.com. And this is probably my very first sponsor on this channel. Very grateful to have them. And, if you look at the banks, you'd think there was nothing wrong. But look under the hood, so to speak, and it looks like a mess. It seems like everyone is getting itchy feet in this market. Commercial property, oh my gosh, you know what's going on with that. Car loans, credit cards are at all-time high. And why chance it for about a 3% return if you're putting your money in a savings account? Why don't you just call the experts at Noble Gold Investments like I have? It's 877-646-5347, the only gold company that I trust. I know the owner. I've had him on the show before. So check it out. You'll talk to somebody in the United States. You want to get Noble Gold Investments on your side. So even if the banks crash again, you will be okay. Now, this may not be right for you, but it may be right for you. So talk to the experts and they'll let you know about keeping your money safe with precious metals. Their experts are waiting right now, and they will offer you, I think I have this for you, this, here we go. This is a 1/4 ounce gold standard coin, and you will get it for free if you qualify. So act now before it's too late. noblegoldinvestments.com. I will have a link for you in the description box below, along with the disclaimer about, how do I put it? Investments are always at risk. There's no guarantee of any kind, but check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. Now, the reason why I ran my sponsor message about gold is because this best, worst, best president, in my opinion, he's the worst of the so-called best presidents. He plays into gold, or let me say, plays into taking away gold. So I actually want to look at your comments and see if anybody got it. And I appreciate everybody being on board. Let's see if YouTube is even going to allow me to see my comments. Here we go. Yes, we've got it. All right. Okay. I've got people saying Obama. I call him the big zero. Leslie said Reagan. Ruth said Kennedy. Oh my gosh. You know what, Ruth? And we're talking about JFK Jr. I'm sorry, JFK. RFK Jr. is on the mind of many people. Yeah, he is definitely in the running for the worst, best president. You know what, you guys? I realize I'm going to have to do an entire series. Let's do a series of the worst, best presidents, meaning those that bamboozled people, that pulled the wool over their eyes, that made people, even maybe your parents, if you're old enough, your parents to this day may still be claiming this to be the best president ever. And CAA says there are so many bad ones. Joe says they're all banker puppets. Leslie says they're all criminals. BB Phillips says Carter. Well, Carter was horrible. I don't think anybody thought he was best. So that's why I took him out of this category. He's like the worst. I think everybody can agree, even the Democrats can agree that he was like the worst president ever. Okay, Woodrow Wilson. Oh my gosh, you guys really know your history. I love it. We've got a couple people saying Roosevelt. We've got Lincoln in the running. Ham Fam says all of them. They're all related. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do this. I love my healthy Americans. This is my highlight of my day to be here and have our get together, because we don't want these bamboozlers to pull the wool over our eyes. So I love nothing more than exposing their evil ways. And what really bothers me is when history has been sloshed all over us with all of the hogwash, making us kind of think that these individuals were much better than they were. So the answer to the question, let me show you another screenshot, at least for today's answer. We are going to say that the worst of the best, here we have it, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who goes by FDR. So that is who I'm going to be talking about. And the reason I'm going to be talking about this worst best president is because it follows up on the broadcast that I did yesterday. Let me know if you saw that video. It was all about the anniversary of Executive Order 9066. Yes, look at those numbers. And that was when FDR sent out this order to his top military to round up all of the Japanese. And as many of you very astute, healthy Americans pointed out, it wasn't just the Japanese. There were also Italians that were incarcerated. I'm using that word because they were thrown into these camps that had prison guards, basically, and their freedoms were taken away. And also Germans were also rounded up. Now, the reason I focused on the Japanese is because yesterday, the Japanese have a day of remembrance. The Japanese Americans have a day of remembrance. And I will continue to speak about this throughout the week, because there's so many interesting connections that many of you reminded me of, including Sam Walton, who was in the military intelligence, and he was one of those that oversaw these so-called prisons. So Japanese were rounded up to the tune of about 125,000 people. And then Germans, like out of 5 million, there were maybe like 10,000 that were rounded up. And they were also questioned. And some of them did have hearings and were let go, my understanding. Whereas with the Japanese, it was a completely unconstitutional. They were held without any allegations, without any charges, without any trial, without any hearing, without any evidence. And that is what rubs me the wrong way. Now, I know there are plenty of you that would like to round up some other ethnic groups that are coming from, dare I say, a country that starts with the letter C. And, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have nothing against anyone from any ethnic background, but I do draw the line at communists. Okay, that I really have a problem with. And also with the Italians, there were much fewer. So I think there were like 1,800 or maybe under 2,000, fewer than 2,000 Italians were rounded up. So the numbers of the Japanese were much larger, and that's why it was something of note. But I will talk about that a little bit later. What I want to talk about is this worst, best president. And I will just let you know, I'm going to give you a list of all of the things that I found that really set the stage for so much of the destruction in our country right now. So as I say, maybe you or your parents, if they're old enough, might still revere what I call a shyster. He actually accelerated the destruction of the American economy by confiscating people's private property and extending the Great Depression. For some upside down reason, inverted reason, we are told that he helped pull the country out of the Depression. And if you look at the analysts, they will all tell you that he actually extended it. And I'm going to share with you exactly why. He is right up there in my list of the winner of the losers. So I just kind of have a laundry list of some of his horrific and horrible acts, the horrible legacy that FDR left behind. So I think everybody knows that he did get the United States into World War II. I did a video about Pearl Harbor. I don't know if it's still on this channel. Remember, sometimes my videos come down. Sometimes I remove them because it's truth that is too hot for YouTube to handle. And I am doing my best to protect this channel. I want to protect you so that you'll have the ability to come here. It's every afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific so that we can have our get-togethers. If I do go missing, you can find me on my Rumble channel, at my Substack, peggyhall.substack.com, and also my private video vault, which is peggyhall.tv. So if you are missing a video, if you go to click on something on YouTube, it's not there. Also, be sure that you look at live. There are 2 tabs on YouTube. Well, there are more than 2, but there are videos, and then I think it's shorts and live. Most of my videos are live. You need to click on the live button to see my videos. So I did something on Pearl Harbor, and I showed all of the strange coincidences about that, things that didn't really add up. And many of you, very rightly so, put comments related to the fact, well, I don't know if it's a fact, but related to the suspicion that FDR knew about this attack in advance. And that's why some of the most important naval ships were diverted from Pearl Harbor and they were put elsewhere. So if that's the case, that just really adds to the reasons why I'm putting him in my column of the winner of the losers and one of the worst, best presidents, because I don't think he was one of the best presidents at all. Any of you that lost loved ones or knew of people that lost loved ones in World War II, you know, that war was going on for some time. And it wasn't until Pearl Harbor that actually American troops were conscripted and sent there. So we can have a whole other conversation about wars and what they're good for. I've done some videos about that. If war is the answer, I have questions. And if war worked, why do we keep doing it? So you probably know where I stand on that. In my video yesterday, I went into great detail, 45-minute video, all about the imprisoned Japanese Americans that were rounded up with this basically illegitimate executive order. Many people don't realize, but FDR actually coined the phrase, the United Nations. He came up with the name of it, and he signed the United States into the United Nations. Now, I know, there were other precursors, the League of Nations. He wasn't the first guy that came up with the idea, but being a Freemason and all, and if you're not sure about that, in my Substack, I will have links so that you can learn more about the Masons, the Masonic Order, this secretive brother. It's no secret, everybody knows about it, but what they do, they try to keep secretive, and they communicate with signs and symbols, which is why all of these events, you start to pick up on these signs and symbols and numbers, and it's like they're leaving their calling card. So anyway, the United Nations is one big club of the brotherhood that wants to march us into the new world disorder, as I call it, where it is a one world government, totalitarian, no borders. And that's what we're seeing right before our eyes. This guy started it. All right. FDR expanded the federal government astronomically. I mean, that is like a pinpoint. And I know Woodrow Wilson and others, but this really was a tipping point where like all bets were off. Even the Supreme Court was putting on the brakes for some of his laws or the bills that he signed into law, because they're like, these are totally unconstitutional. And along those lines, he really took a hit. Even those that loved FDR really took him to task when he tried to pack the Supreme Court, saying, well, you know, anybody over 70, they don't really know what they're doing. And we need to add more Supreme Court justices when we have justices that are over the age of 70, because they can't even really read clearly. That's what he said. And so he wanted to pass legislation where he could add like an additional, I don't know, half a dozen or so Supreme Court justices to override the ones that were voting down his completely, you know, totalitarian government type policies. And after that happened, actually, that law did not go through. His reputation took a hit. But the sad result is that the Supreme Court did start to issue rulings more in favor of FDR and his bloated government. He raised taxes astronomically. He was pushing for a 100% tax rate on the wealthy, which at that time, so we're talking about late 1930s, early 1940s, or 1940s, let's just say, of over $100,000. So anybody earning over $100,000, all of that money would go to the government under FDR's plan. How do you like them apples? Now, they were able to ratchet it down a little bit. I think it was 79% was the top rate. So this is stealing your money. There's no other way of putting it, all right? He worsened and lengthened the Depression with all of these government programs that taxes had to go to pay for. Many people don't realize that he's the one that started Social Security. It was very, very controversial. Let me know in a comment if you would like me to dig in. Well, I have done my digging, but if you would like me to share with you the history of Social Security, how controversial it was, the challenges that went to the Supreme Court, those individuals that actually stood up against the government and said, you are not taking money out of my paycheck. This is where unemployment taxes started. This is where payroll taxes started. And it was extremely controversial. And as some of my very savvy, sophisticated, healthy Americans pointed out in the comments, that part of the Social Security, it wasn't just to care for people in their old age, because frankly, you could invest your own money much better than the government, but it was actually to put a limit on able-bodied people working. We already know how he feels about 70-year-olds. So all y'all in the age of 70, I don't know how you could support this man. And further, he wanted to minimize the number of people who were working at an older age. So I find that like ageist, maybe I could say. So he is best well known for the New Deal programs, work programs of the government. Now, I'm certain that I have those in my audience that are healthy Americans, maybe that have been on board with me from day one because they knew what was going on, which was a bunch of hogwash, and they wanted my help to keep their job without the jab. But I also realize there's a huge number, maybe not a huge number, but there is a number there are subscribers and followers of the Healthy American that actually are quite liberal, leftist, if you will, and they are in favor of large government. Why? I don't understand, because it's been a failure from the get-go. So there are those who will say that the New Deal actually saved our economy. But when you look at the evidence, because I know I'm one of those silly people that like to look at facts and evidence, you'll see that that was not the case at all. So I'm going to put that into my category of failed government programs. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. He was on the front lines of creating the atomic bomb. Now, I also have sophisticated, savvy, healthy Americans that are going to tell me that that may not even exist, and that what we saw in World War II was something else altogether. And of course, I can't say that because YouTube does not like that kind of language. So I'm just going to say naughty, naughty, healthy Americans that might be digging deeper into what we were shown. And I'm not saying it didn't happen. Oh, you can go to Japan and see the rebuilding and all of that. But what I'm talking about is the actual detonation, the actual artillery may not be exactly what we were told. However, having said that, the fear of it, the fear mongering, the creation of it all came under his watch. Are you getting a clue now as to why I have him as one of a winner of the losers, one of the worst, best presidents ever? The 100% tax rate really was like a no-go for me. Then he wanted to create his own new Bill of Rights because, the original Bill of Rights wasn't good enough, obviously. So he wanted to include, it sounds like modern day, so I'm telling you, he set the stage. He set the stage for what's going on in Lahaina right now, where everybody's going to get a home, right? Oh, you think it's just for those that were burned out of their homes in Lahaina? Oh, yeah. Well, look at all of the homeless, or I'm sorry, those that are outdoor people are now going to be getting places to live in other states. Not that I'm saying they should be out in the cold in the winter, not at all, but there are ways that might work and ways that may not. And we've seen failure after failure after failure. But the point is, what all of this is pushing toward is you have a right to a house. You have a right to a job. You have a right to your health. This is what FDR said, that every citizen should have a right to a job, well, except for the Japanese Americans and apparently the Italian Americans and the Germans as well. And he wanted to have a new Bill of Rights that said every citizen has the right to good health. What the health? I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should be your own self-health guru, to use a phrase. Yeah, your health is not the government's business, period. You can see where this was going. Now, he was also famous, or maybe infamous, for contracting polio at the age of 39. This has been debunked many times. If you want to do a deep dive on that, you'll find out that it's likely that it was not polio at all, that he had and I want to give you the correct pronunciation, the Guillain-Barré, which is a type of temporary paralysis. In many cases, it's temporary, and it usually strikes adults. And guess when a lot of adults get it? Yeah, it's just such an interesting connection. I actually had a cousin that had that. And about 6 months later, the paralysis left. And that cousin, was a doctor, is a doctor. You can imagine, how close we are, and believed in all that stuff. Anyway, and I'm not saying FDR was faking it. I am not saying that. Some of you may say that. But he suddenly had a fever, and he was struck with this. And then he wanted to hide that condition from the public because he thought it would make him appear weak if he was always on crutches or in leg braces or in a wheelchair. So there were a lot of shenanigans that were, put forth in order to kind of camouflage what was going on. And he tried to heal himself in different ways. Again, it's hard to know at this stage of the game what was true and what was false, but the idea that it was actually adult polio has been debunked. It was more likely this other type of autoimmune condition. But what happened is it gave him a perfect platform to push for the development of the polio cocktail. And I'm not talking about something that you drink, although they did give it to children orally and on a little sugar cube. Let me know in a comment if you, unfortunately, were subjected to that as a child. Luckily for me, polio had come and gone before my time, so I was not subjected to that. What he did is he created an organization that then became the March of Dimes. Yes, the March of Dimes. And you know how I feel about these nonprofit organizations. And so I've done videos on that as well. And I have a Substack on that as well. The unemployment during his term averaged 18 to 20%. Yes, and he was into his fourth term of office when he died. So that is when the laws were changed so that you could only have 2 terms in office. So he had 3 terms. He was well into his 4th term. Thank you, Lord, that was changed. Because could you imagine having like the current occupant of the White House for 4 terms? All right. Here is one of the worst things that all of those things are horrible. I can't even rank them. This is in no particular order because they're all horrible. But some of you are really going to put this as number 1. He outlawed private ownership of gold. Yes, sir. It was FDR. He gave an executive order. You know how those tyrants love their executive orders. Just do a swipe of the pen. And with the swipe of the pen, everyone was directed to turn in their gold. Now, I don't believe that everyone did. Probably those people that maybe we're descendants of didn't do so. But the government confiscated this private property, mind you, and they paid the individuals $20 an ounce. And then shortly thereafter, like I don't know, a month later or something, the government set the price of gold to $35 an ounce. Totally fair, right? If you're the government. The other strange thing about this guy, I guess birds of a feather flock together. He admitted to admiring Mussolini. Have to dig into that a little deeper. And apparently he was like a pen pal. They kept in close touch. I also heard that he kind of was, kind-hearted towards Stalin as well. I'll have to look into that a little more. Here's another one. Talk about freedom of the press or lack of freedom of the press. Did you know that FDR was the one that started or, pushed for legislation or created actually, because it was just a commission. He created the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. This was the first government censorship of the media. And it exists to this day. Yeah, them are pretty rotten apples. Definitely the first step toward squelching Freedom of the press, that's for sure. This is where it really, okay, this one, these are all hitting home for me because this one's really troubling. All y'all, not you smart, savvy, sophisticated ones, but all y'all in the back row that just stumbled by, you're telling me that his policies helped get the country out of the Depression. Well, the fact of the matter is, this Freemason, FDR, destroyed small family farms by creating the Federal Farm Board and implementing the Agricultural Adjustment Act. Okay, this was in 1933. Many of his policies were ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. But even Social Security, as that was being fought, the government was just ramping everything up. They didn't care. They didn't stop. They had everything in place. They hired people. They had all their field offices. They had the Social Security cards printed. And the same thing with these farm and agricultural initiatives. So they paid the farmers not to plant crops. And I know it's going on to this day. He started it, is my point. He allowed, so the government would buy and slaughter animals and destroy them. And then they never made it into the food economy. How do you like them apples? It got so bad that the United States had to import food because of the farmers not growing their own food. Yeah, that's really smart, isn't it? Did you ever study the Dust Bowl when you were in school? I think that was something they taught us. Okay, the famous Dust Bowl of the 1930s where the farmers stopped planting their crops. So what happened? All the topsoil blew away and it became a dust bowl. And when they tried to plant the crops again, the topsoil was gone. So all of the good nutrients, I'm not a farmer, but this is my understanding, it eroded the soil, which the farmers abandoned. And guess what? Government to the rescue. And then they came in with a whole new soil conservation plan with your tax dollars. Okay, how about this apple? I don't have the exact date, but during his tenure, FDR brought in 5 million Mexicans to work on the farms and the railroads. It was called the Bracero program. And this obviously displaced the American farmers and other laborers, and it adversely affected wages because the Mexican migrants were going to work at a less rate than the Americans. Now, this is exactly what's going on to this day. The one, the only, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, still hailed as one of the greatest, but reality demonstrates that he was one of the worst. Now, ding, 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 a round of applause for everyone who guessed correctly. And let me just share a picture with you. Yeah, this is kind of cool. So here we go. And this is apparently everybody's favorite Freemason. He reached the 32nd degree. Yes, he did. He was initiated in the Freemasonry on October 11th, 1911. So 11/11, I thought that was pretty interesting. And that was in New York City. He got to the 32nd degree. There are 33 degrees, which is why they often like that number. They like 11. They like all, I've done videos on that in the past. I've got lots of links for you on my Substack if you would like to read more. And here he is in the center. He's got his Freemason apron on, and that's the initiation center, the initiation ceremony for FDR. So for those that are unaware of the significance of the Freemasons, the prevailing theory, as I did mention briefly, is that the secretive brotherhood is the one that's behind the New World Disorder, which seeks to create the one world totalitarian government. I mean, what could be further from the truth? That is laughable. So FDR basically was born into like an aristocratic family. All right. His family was one of wealth and leisure. He was privately tutored in French and Latin while he went on all of these European vacations. Hey, I have nothing against people who have money, not at all, but I'm just showing you the disconnect between his upbringing. And many people will say that one of his greatest magic tricks was presenting himself as one of the people when in fact he came from a very aristocratic elite background. He went to Harvard University, went to Columbia Law School, started his law career. And you know how I feel about most lawyers as well. Yes, he did marry his cousin, maybe a little distant cousin. I'll leave that for you to decide how that union came about. And I think actually that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to share with you. But what I will give you a couple of insights into what is coming next. So I wanted to share with you that these strange connections between, oh, you know what the heck? I'll just show you a picture of his lovely bride. Here we go. Yeah. The picture of femininity. I had another one here for you as well. I'll have to find that. I'll probably put it in the Substack for you. And here we go. This FDR was connected to Sam Walton because Walton, I think I mentioned it previously, was in military intelligence and oversaw some of these camps. Interestingly, Walton being from Arkansas, and one of the internment camps for the Japanese was in Arkansas, while all of the rest were on pretty much on the West Coast. I think there was one as far as Idaho, but then Arkansas. So like that's strange to me. And then wait until I tell you the connection between Walton and JCPenney. Now, you probably are never going to shop at JCPenney after I share this with you in tomorrow's video. Maybe you never shopped at JCPenney anyway, but there's some very strange connections between Walmart, JCPenney, the progressive socialists, and what they're doing to destroy our country. So that's what I have for you today, friends. I just want, oh, here we go. Oh yeah, here. I told you I was going to share with you a picture of the lovely bride. The picture of femininity right there, very excessive little design here, to the shoulders. I would never say they were trying to mask, a masculine frame. Never would I say that on this channel, that's for sure. Okay, that's probably a topic for another day. That will get me into hot water with some of you who don't like facing the reality of truth of our reality. All right, friends, I think that's it for me today. Thank you for being on board. I am going to talk to you tomorrow about everything that's bothering me. Yeah, and I want you to tell me everything that's bothering you. And we'll probably take a poll on the Substack to find out which of these things are the worst of the worst of the worst. All right. I think we're going to have a series of the worst best presidents because there are so many of them. And my goal here is just to expose the truth and help you read between the lies. So grateful to have you on boards, on board and on all the boards. All right, friends, I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's broadcast. Sign up. It's free over at peggyhall.substack.com. See you soon, everybody.